Hello everyone, yeah, welcome in my workshop where I'm working on my most recent project. It's a Italian bike, a 1982 Moto Morini 350 V-twin. It's the Strada model. So yeah, the normal street model, like they say. They also have a sport model, which is yeah, the same, but then with a more sporty look and feel. My bike, it's an 80s bike. So yeah, Morini decided in the early 80s that yeah, they also had to keep up with styling. So they decided to give the bike a little remake and yeah, put some typical 80s stuff on the bike, like as you can see here, yeah, the square headlights, which I'm really not a big fan of, and also yeah, some plastic fairings on the rear end of the bike. You can see, you can find some pictures on the internet, or perhaps you have one, so you know what I'm talking about. And also yeah, they changed, did some changes on the seat as well. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the 80s styling, and to my opinion, they changed one of the most beautiful looking bikes into yeah, something little bit less good looking. Well, but yeah, that's everybody's own opinion. So the thing I decided to do is to give the bike a little remake, and to give it a more 70s appeal. Also, I do like the appearance of the sport version, so I decided to yeah, to give it a sporty look. Things I have to do, first of all, is yeah, get rid of all the plastic parts. Well, it's not that difficult, just remove a few bolts and you have them. But then the more challenging thing is to change the seat. It's not just a simple swap. You need to do some things. One of the big differences between the seat of the 70s bikes and the seat of the of my Morini, the 80s Morinis, is that as you can see, the seat is mounted sideways on my Morini. You get two mounting points. Also, you got here a bracket for the seat lock, which is mounted, yeah, on the side of the frame, of course. And if you look here, you have the early seat, the sport seat. It's a completely different story here. You've got two mounting points on the front, and then two mounting brackets on the back of the seat. So, in order to make this seat fit on your 80s Morini, well, you have to do a few things. First of all, you have to get rid of the mounting points for the original seat. They were here and here. I had to cut them away because yeah, they're just in the way of the other seat. Also, at the rear end, you had some yeah, resting points for the seat. Also had to cut them away. They were also in the way. Then I had made a clever thing. It's a bracket made of stainless steel, about 3mm thick. Yeah, I will upload a technical drawing of it with dimensions and stuff like that. So maybe you can, if you want to change your bike into an earlier model. So yeah, very clever thing. You just need to drill a few holes in the frame, in the brackets, and yeah, like this, and yeah, you can mount it, as you can see, one here, and then yeah, it gets very easy to mount the seat. Also in the front, on the original Morini, I think they welded two pins on the frame. the thing I did, I just took two bolts, mounted it on a metal plate, and yeah, it works. So if you mount the seat, I'll show it to you. Goes like this. First, the front, finding the holes. Like this. So to me, now it looks pretty good, and as you can see to the brackets, it lines up pretty well. The mounting points with the brackets, so the only thing you need now is a few bolts to hold it together. Unfortunately, the original bolts that Morini used for their early bikes, something like this. Yeah. Because they welded some bigger brackets on the frame, yeah, it doesn't fit anymore. So yeah, the thing I did, just 8mm bolt and wing nut, and yeah, it does the trick. It works pretty well. Maybe not really original, but for me it does the trick. So yeah, that's how I changed the seat. Some other things I did to give it a more sportier look is, yeah, I attached some standard clip-ons, removed the old steering wheel, the original steering wheel, and it gives the bike a whole other appearance. Some other things I did, because Morini has, the Morinis have a pretty bad reputation, well, no, not a bad reputation, but a reputation with the footrests. The original footrests were pretty far forward, so you had a really weird position, especially when you're a tall guy like me, 1.90 m approximately. So for me it was really with the knees to my chest, it's not really comfortable. So, Italian company Tarozzi, which makes various rear sets for various bikes, also made a rear set for the Morinis. It's very well made, fits very well too, very nice position to ride, especially if you're a little bit bigger. The only problem you have with these rear sets is on the left hand side, is with the brake pedal. Because you have on this side you have the Kickstarter, and if you leave the Kickstarter original like this, if you want to kickstart it, you will definitely touch the footrest. So there is a company in the UK, it's called I think North Leicester Motorcycles, and they developed, well, they are specialized in Moto Morinis, so they have a lot of knowledge and also are aware of this problem. So they made this clever thing. It's yeah, a kickstart spacer block, something like that, and it yeah, makes the travel of your Kickstarter much wider, and yeah, now it passes the footrest. Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. In my case, it was the footrest was still a few millimeters too wide, but yeah, I solved it by, as you can see, I cut some metal away. So the Kickstarter can now travel past the footrest. But then a more bigger problem is the pedal itself. So the pedal, I'll show you the original, is this. This is the well, like this. It's mounted like this. This is the original. Also pretty big. Well, yeah, standard, but for in this application a little bit too big. So the Kickstarter also, even with this spacer block, it touches the pedal. And if you don't change it and keep riding like this, eventually you will have some devastating results, like breaking the bracket here. It will break or bend. There are enough pictures on the internet to show what kinds of horror it can do to your bike. So I decided to go for a solution. Went to the local hardware store and I bought one of these. Just a standard connecting nut, and as you can see, in comparison with the original pedal, it's a little bit shorter, but short enough so the Kickstarter can pass. There are other solutions I've seen on the internet, like guys who found a folding pedal, which came from a Kawasaki, an old Kawasaki, I think. But for me, it's too much work just for a simple pedal. So for me, that works. Perhaps not as aesthetically pleasing as the original pedal, but yeah, for me it works, and I prefer functionality above aesthetics, so for me it's not a problem. Yeah, and then that's all I did, I think, for the cosmetic things, the aesthetics of the bike. I did do something on the engine, as I have the original the standard bike, the Strada model. Yeah, the street model. It had some standard compression pistons. Well, yeah, standard. They still were pretty high compression because I think the bike had standard 35 horsepower for a 350. In that period, it was pretty good. So it drives very well, but I thought it could use a little bit more punch. So I decided perhaps I can upgrade it to a sport version, because the only difference between the sport and the Strada, I've been told, is that they put in the sport higher compression pistons and also a hotter camshaft. The camshaft is no longer available. I think in the UK they still had a few spares, but they are also sold, I think. So, but yeah, the difference then between the two camshafts is you get a lot more horsepower, but it's the riding comfort for riding on the street is also a little bit less. So the sport was really a bike to ride on circuits and do some races with. But yeah, it had more horsepower, but the horsepower was on the higher RPMs, I think, while the Strada had a more broader power band and was a little bit more comfortable to ride on the street. So the thing I did to have the best of the two worlds, as you can say. I just changed the pistons into the sport piston, so I've got a higher compression. So it wins maybe 1 or 2 horsepower, but I think it gives a bit more punch than the original Strada model. I have not tested it yet because yeah, it's still a work in progress. Still have to do some little things. But I'm very curious how it drives comparing to the original Strada model. So this is everything I did to the bike until now. Hope you liked my video. See you next time.